Hey everybody, it's Justin here, and today I'm really excited to be sharing with you this A7 Christmas card I created using the bear shape dies from scrapbook.com. This is just an adorable die set, and it's going to make perfect for this Christmas card. And I'm combining it with some newer 6x8 paper pads by scrapbook.com. We're going to be using the Merry, Christmas, and Vacation cardstock pads, and of course that Merry pad's got some really fun pattern paper to be using. So I'm going through the paper I want to use, and from the vacation selection, I'm going to be using this light tan color paper that's going to work perfectly with my bear. Now that tan paper will be the only color I'm using from the vacation paper pack. So next I'm going to pull out the Merry pattern paper and grab a handful of colors. I'm going to use this light blue color for my project. I'm also going to use this blue and red candy stripe color. There is some pink paper in here I'm going to grab as well. And then I'm going to grab this light red Christmas star paper. Now with the Christmas smooth cardstock, I'm going to go ahead and grab the craft color, and being upfront, I do forget to grab the black cardstock. I'll come back to that later. But here's my current selection of papers I'm using for my project, and I'm also going to use some strips of Catherine Pooler white cardstock as well for some stamping and some die cutting. I'm going ahead with each of my images for the die cuts, and I'm going to go ahead, tack them down onto their respective paper with some mint tape. I really like that 4-inch roll because it allows me to kind of shape the tape to what I want it to be. And I am also going ahead and trimming each of the die cuts off after I adhere them with the mint tape to my paper. The reason for this, I'm going to be able to fit a lot of them on my die cutting machine panel, and it's just going to make the die cutting process a lot easier. So as you can see right now, there is that little scarf for the bear that I'm cutting from the mint paper, and I'm also going to be taking the little Santa hat and creatively putting it into place so that I can cut just the red portion, and it's going to be a beautiful light red color. Using that strip of Catherine Pooler paper, I'm going to go ahead and tack down the bits that have the little fluffy little areas for the Santa hat. And I'm going to go ahead and die cut some of the facial expressions using the pink paper that I got from the Merry Pattern Paper Collection. I arrange all of my little die cuts onto my cutting plates, and then I'm going to go ahead and process them through my 6-inch Spellbinders Platinum die cutting machine exclusively for scrapbook.com in the black color. And I'm going to use one of my stack and sort organized trays so I can go ahead and put each of my die cuts in there for later. Here's where I realized I didn't have that black panel to use some of the facial expressions, so I'm going to go ahead and do a second round of die cutting, and then I'll be able to put all these little bits and bobs in one of my stack and sort organizing trays. Of course, I want to do a little bit of ink blending just to add some shading to the edges of my die cuts, and I'm starting by using some distress ink with this little teddy bear. I just love adding distress ink to the edges of die cuts because I really feel like it adds that necessary finished edge so it doesn't look so flat. It gives it that three-dimensional appearance, and I always like talking about when I'm crafting things that are easy finished edges that you can add to your project that I really think bring them to the next level. Doing a little bit of ink blending onto die cuts is always something that I feel is going to bring that finished edge level up just a little bit more, so I'm incorporating it into multiple elements for this little teddy bear. I'm also going to be using it on the center of his chest like I'm doing right now, and that is going to be just perfect for the center of this little teddy bear. Some of these die cuts are also a little on the smaller side, which isn't a problem, but it can be a little difficult to go ahead and hold them in place while you're ink blending. So I do like to often grab for an acrylic block from my stash. Gina K Designs has some fantastic, thick, great quality acrylic blocks to use, and I use those to kind of protect my fingers and my die cut when ink blending, and it also helps apply enough pressure to hold items into place. I also like to use my Precision Craft Tweezers by scrapbook.com to hold items in place as well, and these tweezers are going to come in super handy in a little bit when I have to go ahead and put all of these die cuts into place and adhere them to my little teddy bear. Now this mouth panel is the last die cut for the bear that I want to go ahead and ink blend with that distress ink. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to use my Craft Precision tweezers and my Artis liquid adhesive to go ahead and put each of these panels into place as best as I can. I know that it's with the mouth area, there is going to be a little bit of unevenness with that coming later on. It's really not a problem. It's a handmade card. It's not meant to be perfect, and I guarantee you he's going to look just as cute this way than if it was perfectly lined up. So I'm using that Artis liquid adhesive, getting everything all nice and pressed down with an acrylic block for some even pressure. And I'm also going to go ahead and work on putting the little pieces to his face together and his ears, of course, as well. So I'm using that pink paper to go ahead and put the inner parts of his ears all into place. I'm going to also, from the black cardstock, get his mouth and his nose into place. This is what is going to be just very slightly crooked. It's really, I almost feel like it's one of those things that if I didn't say anything about it, you might not have even noticed. But me being the one who made the card, of course, I've just got to divulge my secrets with it. I'm also using the very little black dots for the eyes, and I used a very, very small amount of adhesive to put them down because they're not going to take much at all to stick to the panel. And I've got those nicely in place. I'm going to press them down with my acrylic block, and those should be good to go as well. He also has these really cute pink rosy cheeks. I use the exact same color that I did for the inner parts of its ears just because for continuity purposes and to not have to cut a second color of paper, of course. Got to be a little conservative with that. And then we are ready to move on to the next die cut. Now I am using cracked pistachio on top of this mint scarf, and I want to let you know one important thing I did off camera, and that is I did wipe down my glass mat before I started my ink blending because I used that vintage photo on my glass mat. If I didn't clean off my mat, I was going to have that vintage photo most likely find its way onto my scarf and not really turn out the color I wanted. I really just want to stick to that sort of minty blue and cracked pistachio color. I don't really want to incorporate any sort of vintageness into it. So just make sure when you don't want any color transfer that you go ahead and you clean your glass mat. Using my precision tipped craft tweezers, I use my Artis liquid adhesive on the back and I put my scarf right into place. And he's really starting to have a Christmassy holiday sort of feel to him. And I just think he's the cutest little teddy bear. So I'm super excited to get towards the end of this. And we've really just got to work on his little Santa hat right now. I'm going to go ahead and use some candied apple distress ink and ink blend both of the sides of the hat just to add a little bit of shading, giving it that three-dimensional look. And after we go ahead, we're going to ink blend all that together. It's going to be time to go ahead and adhere the little fluff balls to it. Now, it does have a fluff trim on the bottom, like most Santa hats do, and it's got that little fluffy cotton ball finish at the end as well. So I've cut that from some white Catherine Pooler cardstock. I'm going to go ahead and use my Craft Precision Tip tweezers to press to get them right into place and use an acrylic block to press it down. Using my Artis liquid adhesive, I'm going to go ahead, put it right into place on top of my teddy bear, and he's all done and ready to go. Now, I am going to trim down this red and mint candy stripe paper so it's A7 sized. A7 is 5 inches by 7 inches, and I wanted to make sure to use a larger card size for this project because the 6x8 paper pads allow for it. It's not something that you can always get with the smaller paper pads, and I definitely wanted to make sure to use it with this sort of card as well. So I'm using the big and bold holiday sentiments. I'm going to use this Merry Christmas, and in my Rose Quartz Misty, which of course is exclusive to scrapbook.com, I'm going to go ahead and stamp down my sentiment, and I actually decide to stamp it down in candied apple distress ink because I feel like it's going to be continuity with the Santa hat that we went ahead and used earlier. I don't use distress ink quite a bit when it comes to stamping. Usually I default to using like a Catherine Pooler ink because those always have really beautiful coverage. But I do go ahead and just to make sure that all of the colors on the card are as close to possible, I do use this candied apple distress ink to stamp, and I use my LDRS Creative pink stamping tool to go ahead and make sure that I'm getting a nice even pressure Now, after I'm finished applying my pressure and making sure that my coverage is nice and even, I do decide that I want to trim this down just a little bit. So I take out my guillotine trimmer by Tim Holtz Photonic Studios and I trim it down just kind of by eyeballing it to make sure that that Merry Christmas is fitting really nicely on this strip of paper. This strip of paper is also longer than 7 inches, which is the long edge of the card, and that's because it's going to give me a little bit of space to move it into place for my project. But that's okay because I can always just trim off the excess, and honestly, it's going to work even better that way because it minimizes any sort of sizing errors that I may have had when I'm cutting. So using the same pink cardstock that I used for the little cheeks and the inner parts of the ears, I'm going to use this to sort of frame the Merry Christmas sentiment and just give it a little bit of a border so it pops nicely on the card panel. I'm going to use my Artiste liquid adhesive to put some adhesive on the back of my sentiment panel, and then I'm going to adhere it directly to my pink strip. And I'm just lightly pressing it down because of course I don't want to create any sort of smudges, and on white paper it's always going to show. And now it's time to use my Artiste liquid adhesive to go ahead and adhere my sentiment strip panel to my card panel, and my card's really starting to take shape now that I've got it all adhered together. Now, once I have my strip all level the best that I can, I do take my scissors and I go ahead and start the process of trimming off the excess that hangs off the card. I do also like to recommend if you can invest in scissors that have a non-stick blade to them, it's going to make your crafting a lot less frustrating because anytime you're working with cutting adhesive, you're not going to have to worry about any sort of sticking. Next, I'm using large foam adhesive squares, and I'm going to put this on the back of my teddy bear, and this is going to allow him to just really nicely pop on the card. And I use these foam squares all the time. You can see I've already put a dent in my strip. I just think that using foam adhesive on your card is one of those other finished edges that really help elevate your card to another level. I'm going to be using some Blessing Glitter Enamel Dots by Pink and Main just to add a finishing touch to my card. There's some really pretty pink and blue colors in here. There's also a red as well, so I'm just kind of mixing and matching them through my card, adding my embellishment. I like to work in odd numbers as best as possible. And it's just, I love how this is coming together. I love these pastel Christmas colors. I think this card is so dang cute. And I'm really excited to get this in the mail to somebody this holiday season and really make their day. Now, once I have all of my enamel dots into place, my card for the most part is really going to be completed. So all that's going to be left to do is using a prepared A7 card base and adhering my main card panel to it. So I've got my card base all ready to go, and I'm going to go ahead and adhere my adhesive to it using my Artiste liquid adhesive, and then we'll just put the base right on top. I always try to make sure that I am careful when putting my card on a base because there's always that time where you may have had a little bit of a snafu when you're measuring and you may have to trim a little bit of excess off. That's another great opportunity for those non-stick scissors to come in to help with you just to trim off those ends of your card. But I've got this all ready to go. It lines up really nicely and it's all completed. So thank you guys so very much for stopping by today and checking out how I created this Merry Christmas card using these bear die cuts by scrapbook.com. I just think this card turned out so cute. So make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't yet. I greatly appreciate your support, and all of the shopping links for your products are down below. Thank you guys so much for stopping by my blog today. I can't wait to see what you create this holiday season, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.